We're going to talk about Plastic Free July today. Specifically, we're going to talk about lessons that I have learned over 7 years of doing Plastic Free July and what I wish that I had known from the beginning, so that if you're new to sustainability or reducing your plastic waste, start here. This is for those types of people. So what is Plastic Free July? Plastic Free July is similar to Earth Month now, is an opportunity that people tend to use to challenge themselves to be plastic free. And what plastic free means varies like a lot. It could be like single-use plastic free. It could just be like reducing your waste. For the purposes of this video, just Plastic Free July is a challenge, really. I discovered all of this stuff in 2016. I was a college student and I really just ate it all up. The idea of having my waste fit into a mason jar and not producing any trash or using any plastic and having everything be in beautiful, aesthetic things was just appealing to me at the time. And I think it was appealing to a lot of people at the time. We've come a long way since then. But I do want to highlight that when I started this, sustainability wasn't cool. It wasn't a buzzword. It wasn't something that you see in marketing campaigns. And I learned a lot that year, the first year that I was into it. And I thought that I could fit my trash into a mason jar by just looking at Lauren Singer's YouTube videos, and it wasn't the case. So I'm going to tell you what this video is not going to be. It's not going to be me telling you what brands and products to buy to be plastic free. It's not going to be me endorsing you to go purchase more things. It's going to be lessons that I've learned from almost a decade of being mindful of my waste. And let's just get into it. So the first lesson is that it's really hard. It is really hard to be plastic free, to be waste free, to not use any plastic at all. It's everywhere. And that's by design. I'm in the United States, I'm in a Western country, and at the end of the day, the systems at play are really utilize plastic, and they're in everything from the way we package our groceries to the food that I get when I forgot lunch that day. And so that is by design, and it's impossible to ever be zero waste. And it's extremely hard to even be single-use plastic free, or you have to be extremely prepared and have a lot of time, and we'll get into that. So yeah, the second is that you realize through this process just how many unnecessary things are packaged in plastic. We call that plastic goggles. And I think that this is one of the most valuable things of doing the Plastic Free July Challenge is you take off your plastic goggles and you start seeing how much plastic is everywhere, from the chairs that I'm sitting on to the parts of it that are in my phone to, oh, I'm doing something good with my reusable cup, but this is hard, durable plastic that is going to far outlive us. And getting those plastic goggles is really important, and something that I've never really actually been able to take off since then, no matter how many years have passed. And I like that. I like being acutely aware of how pervasive it is, because some of these other lessons seem to make a lot more sense. I learned that we're going to be the generation that finds out the consequences of plastic pollution on our health. So plastic didn't reach like market scale until like the 50s or 60s, and it was originally marketed as like a, we'll save you time. The wife who is traditionally in the household at that time, you don't have to do dishes, you can do single use, you can throw things away. And this disposable overconsumption lifestyle was really branded around that time period. And if you think about that, that's like our parents or young grandparents' age. And so we are the generation that has been exposed to plastic for our entire life, and we're going to see how that impacts our health. Whereas my parents or our grandparents haven't been exposed their entire life. So we're going to be the generation that finds out about plastic and what that means for us. And the studies are already coming out, and it's not great. That's my next one, which is that I learned how much plastic is actually impacting like our health and our well-being, and specifically because scientific studies take a really long time, and the publications and those findings and results are just now being shared with the world. So one of the first ones that came to the public was that we're ingesting around a credit card's worth of plastic per week. And if you look at that study, it increases significantly if you drink your water out of single-use plastic bottles, or if you essentially that we are consuming it, ingesting it. And I actually just learned this week that you're also ingesting it through dust in your household. Because as it sloughs off of your clothes or your belongings, it can become airborne, and then you can ingest it that way too. And roughly around a credit card worth of plastic is kind of what made headlines because it was like conceptual to everybody. So then after that study came out, the next ones that kind of hit the general public was that microplastic was being discovered in our bloodstreams, and then it was also being discovered in the placenta, which provides nutrients to fetuses. So we were not just only having it circulated throughout our body, but it was being passed on. And just recently in 2023, in the spring of 2023, a study was just published that quantified phthalates, which are created by petrochemical companies as like the raw material for plastics. Those are linked to lower sperm counts and sperm mobility. So we have plastic now officially being linked to fertility challenges. These are just a few studies. We are going to be learning so much more. So I really learned how it impacted our health. And I think as someone who wanted to do this because I wanted to stop plastic from getting into the oceans to impact animals, it really taught me that it's not really impacting animals, it's impacting the whole planet, including us as humans. In the same vein, the next lesson I learned is that plastic is an endocrine disruptor. So our endocrine system is our hormone system, and endocrine disruptors can disrupt the natural flow of hormones and the balance that we have in our bodies at any given time. And so chemicals that leach out of plastics when they're in our bodies can disrupt hormones. And this is really important because disrupting our hormones, there's a lot of hormone disrupting things in the world, especially in the Western world. But just knowing that when added up, plastic can be impacting entire organ systems or our entire hormonal system was a huge wake-up call for me, because I think especially as women, we're just learning how much our hormones are under threat from environmental factors, whether it be plastic or chemicals used in our household or contraceptives or any of these things. And it's just an added stressor to that. I also learned a ton of recipes in the process. I learned how to make my own like toilet suds or like tabs that clean your toilet. I learned how to make my own laundry detergent, my own natural bug spray. I learned how to make my own soap, all of my cleaning detergents. And this was like the first and second year of Plastic Free July. And I've taken those with me and still do that to this day. The only thing is like the toilet tabs and laundry detergent, sometimes I don't always have time. So I'm going to put the recipes here for you if you want to grab a screenshot, and I would really encourage you to copy them because I tried out a bunch to make sure that these were the ones that worked. In that process, I actually learned how much cheaper it is if you can find a way to make your own like household cleaning products, or like it's so much cheaper. And this brought me into this experience of realizing just how much we're marketed to buy more things that we need. Like I remember asking myself one day, like, why do we need a special cleaner for our toilet that's separate from the cleaner in our bathtub? Like that doesn't make any sense. Like if you're cleaning surfaces in your house, you can just use the same thing, like soap or those types of things. Like why should I be putting like bleach in my kitchen sink that's touching my dishes that I eat off of? Like these were like thoughts that I started to have through this process. And I just realized it's not just so much cheaper, but you can simplify your routines and the things that allow you to clean your house and keep your life clean to a way that not only saves you money, but is better for the planet, is better for the wallet, and is better for your health. I learned just how many chemicals are in traditional cleaning agents and products, and just how much we have a food label on packaged food that you have to see certain ingredients, but you don't have to have that for cleaning products, but they're still ultimately coming into our sphere, right? Like if you're washing your clothes with whitening loads that has bleach and carcinogens and endocrine disruptors, and then you're wearing it and it's being absorbed through your epidermis, your skin as an organ system. Like it just made so much more sense for me to say, oh, okay, I'm going to use Castile soap, vinegar. I'm going to use 1-to-1 ratios. I'm going to fill it when it was so much cheaper, healthier, and better for us and the planet. And that's something that I've always stuck with, and that I always tell people, if it's your first exploration into low waste living, you should start with your cleaning products, because you'll immediately see the benefit of just using cleaner products that save you money. In that little deep dive into how many chemicals are in traditional plastic packaged cleaning products and things like that, I also learned, which is silly because I think this might be common knowledge now, but this was a handful of years ago, that plastic is made from fossil fuels. Did you know that? Did you know it was made from crude oil? So crude oil gets extracted from the ground through drilling, fracking, whatever, and it gets refined at a refinery and through petrochemicals. So it goes from crude oil to petrochemicals, oil-based chemicals. Those refineries are often placed in low income and disadvantaged communities, typically communities of color. You see this at Cancer Alley in Louisiana, which has a huge concentration of cancer rates because these refineries are not only in their environment, but also being, the water is being pushed in their waterways in that direct community. So these refineries refine crude oil into plastic from petrochemicals. And so no wonder that these cause health effects. If there's an oil spill and oil gets on a seabird, we know that kills a seabird. This is just a refined version of that. And you're not getting rid of those chemicals just because it went through a process that turned it into what you think of as like clear, shiny plastic, right? So that really woke me up to the ways that the plastic crisis is the climate crisis and that they're deeply connected, which is the human health crisis, which is the environmental justice and social justice crisis. And just that if you want to help end plastic, you have to end fossil fuel industry. And that if you care about preventing plastic waste from getting into your baby's body or into a whale's stomach, you have to care about transitioning our world into a fossil-free future. And I'll never really forget that because I do a lot of beach cleanups in my everyday work. And I think that people are like, what can I do? And it's like, yes, there's single-use plastic bans are like a great policy. And we'll get into that towards the end part of this video. But this is so much bigger than just plastic in many ways as well. I learned that the alternatives to plastic already exist. And they're awesome and they're natural and they biodegrade and they are coming to market as sustainability becomes cool and plastic-free living becomes something that people know about. And I'm just going to share with you a few of them now, but there's many. So one of them is hemp. Hemp is refined from the cannabis plant and it can be used in housing and clothing and paper goods and all these things. And then, when it's done, it can just be composted. Bamboo is another one. Bamboo is extremely fast growing and it requires little to no water. It doesn't require many pesticides and you can use it in place of plastic in many industries. And we're seeing that, right? You see like bamboo straws, bamboo things. The other one is organic cotton. I try to only support this in the context of clothing because so much of our clothing is plastic, but organic cotton is a natural plant. And by saying organic, you are not supporting a lot of the pesticides that traditionally pollute the area and the soil. Those are just a few, and glass, of course, glass. You can package things in glass forever. Glass and aluminum are infinitely recyclable. Aluminum is definitely being marketed as really sustainable, but we have less infrastructure to recycle aluminum than we do to recycle glass. But I just love putting things in glass and that I would otherwise have put in plastic. So check that out. So the solutions already exist. They just need to be scaled, which is super exciting. In that area is that why aren't these alternatives used at the same scale that plastic is used? It's because, going back to the fact that plastic is linked to the presence of the fossil fuel industry, it's because we are actually subsidizing fossil fuel industry around $20 billion a year with taxpayer money. So that's a political issue that our government is choosing to subsidize extremely harmful industry that is taking futures away from us and any future kids that we may have. And so this is such a lesson to be said about why plastic is cheaper because it's being subsidized in the same way why animal agriculture is cheaper. And so we can lobby or share with our representatives and political officials that subsidies should be going towards more sustainable alternatives. And that's a huge hill to climb, but it will require all of us taking steps to make that known to our representatives. I learned how fast fashion perpetuates the climate crisis and the plastic crisis. I learned that most of our clothes are made of plastic, polyester. All of that is refined from plastic materials. It sloughs off when we wash it and goes into our waterways, which ends up in our oceans as microfibers. You can get filters like the Planet Care filter if you own your washer and dryer machine or if your landlord is okay with you putting it in there. Or the Coraball is a good example of something that works. It doesn't work as effectively as obviously the super granular filter, but it's a good way for you to just get something that supports it. And then for the last few ones, I learned that we can't really clean our way out of the plastic crisis Beach cleanups are so awesome to bring community together, help people find friends that care about sustainability, and to teach people just how pervasive this problem is. Specifically here in Hawaii, we have so many microplastics that wash in with any weather because we're right at the bottom of the North Pacific subtropical gyre, or where the Great Pacific Garbage Patch is in the Pacific. So when visitors come, they really see what plastic looks like. Whereas, like, if you're in California, you're not having microplastics wash up on your beach, but we can't clean our way out of it. We have to end production, which is the same fight that I mentioned before. I learned that more than anything, sustainability is a mindset. You're never going to have the mason jar. You're never going to look in your house and never see plastic, at least for right now. But it's a mindset of caring for the things that you have, reusing things as many times as you can, plugging into your community and buy nothing groups. God, those things are the best. Join a buy nothing group. It's worth making a Facebook, actually, if you don't even have a Facebook. It's for your buy nothing group. It's just like keeping things in use instead of putting them into the trash can. It's a mindset of caring for the things that you have so that they last as long as possible, and a entry point into climate action and larger movements in that way. I learned that not many people have the choice to be plastic free. It's the idea of plastic free living and plastic free July is so deeply rooted in privilege and access to zero waste stores and composting. And now that sustainability has become more mainstream, mason jars and bulk purchases. And that's just simply not the norm for most people who don't live in a more affluent area. It's becoming more accessible, but sustainability was rooted out of survival. And so low income groups and communities have been practicing sustainability and passing on those things to their families for so much longer than this era where it's being branded as a affluent way of life. And I think it's advantageous that wealthy moms want to get the bamboo high chair now. And I'm grateful for that because it's putting more of a market demand on these things. But as someone who is never going to be able to afford a $600 bamboo high chair, that's not what true sustainability ends up being. If it's what are other alternatives? Could you get it from a neighbor? Could you get it from a buy nothing group? Could it be one that stays in your family? Could it be one that just wasn't simply otherwise would be going to landfill? And lastly, I learned that Plastic Free July is a really great conservation entry point into caring more about environmental issues and empowering yourself to take actions that allow you to leave like a lower mark on the world, but also allow you to learn so much more. All of these lessons that I just shared with you guys today wouldn't be possible without me practicing Plastic Free July. I would have never come this far in my understanding of the plastic crisis if I wasn't trying to reduce my plastic in the first place. And so maybe it was born out of me being attracted to a plastic-free and sustainable aesthetic 7 years ago, but now it's literally radicalized me into climate activism. And I think that that's why more people should be doing Plastic Free July, not because we need more glass straws. It's because we need more people who care about the environment. So like I said, this was not going to be anything about brands. And I think there's a lot of awesome sustainability creators that do that type of work. If you want to learn more, we are here to save our blue planet. And Plastic Free July is ideally getting you one step closer to doing that with us. So love you guys. See you in the next video.